So as we do with each exhalation, bringing ourselves a little more present, a little more grounded, a little more into the raw sensation of simply existing. Setting aside the temptation to know what comes next, to figure anything out. Want to look a certain way to others. And just letting go of the immediate past of the day and the week so far. And just putting it down gently without judging it, without judging our experience. And allowing ourselves insofar as possible to simply settle into the fluidity and indeterminacy of this new moment, a new moment marked with or marked by every breath. And if what it takes to be fully present is to reset your intention and your attention on each inhale and exhale, that's enough. And we have these techniques and little devices that we use, and we call them practices because we're practicing. And the fruit of the practice is when the external form and technique can fall away and we simply abide effortlessly in the state that we formerly needed the device or the technique to carry us into. And that's where authentic mindfulness arises rather than air quotes mindfulness as a technique to accomplish something. So just being gently present and gradually settling into the depth, we can let the noise and arm waving at the surface of our experience simply continue, but without getting enmeshed in it. And that stuff actually has its own line of progress, its own unfoldment. And the magical thing is that if we quit feeding it, it will find its own way to resolve. And once we begin feeding that part of ourselves silence, more and more of our attention becomes ornamented with silence. Ornamented, clothed, infused with. And I'll mention again, as Pir-o-Murshid Inayat Khan tells us in one of his discourses, the natural state of the mind is not thoughts, but simply mind. And the natural state of the heart is not emotions, but heart. And what heart actually is can be the inquiry of a lifetime because it's boundless. And it's really where we connect with everything. Presencing ourselves to whatever in our field of experience we have named our heart. Just drop into that a little bit more. Don't force. Mastery is one thing, but forcing ourselves has limited usefulness on this path. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma nahnu. Illah. Allah. And as we do, bringing ourselves back to the effects that this little bit of practice has had on how our bodies feel, our hearts feel, the texture of our thoughts, the sensations of our subtle bodies as they interpenetrate all the gross matter that comprises our bodies and the gross energies that comprise our minds. And if you wish, you can think "whoo" on the inhale and the exhale. Just center in the heart. And just allow the natural fluidity and indeterminacy, which is natural. Just allowing that to transpire. Not trying to categorize it, have a story about it, compare it to some other experience. Make it too much or not enough of something. to support the inner inquiry a little more. We'll do a string of Ya Nur Ya Ali. Ya Nur Ya Ali. Ya Nur Ya Ali. Ya Nur Ya Ali. Ya Nur Ya Nur Ya Nur Ya Ali. Ya Nur Ya Ali. Ya Nur Ya Ali. Ya Nur 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 Ali. Ya Nur Ali. Ya Nur Ali. Ya Nur Ya Ali. Ya Nur Ya Ali. Ya Nur Ya Ali. Ya Nur 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 Ali. Nur Ali. Ya Nur Ali. Ya Nur Ali. Ya Nur Ali. For a few breaths. Inhaling, thinking Nur. Exhaling, thinking Ali. Centering in the heart. And some spot in the center of your forehead or at the top of your head wants to come out and play. Let it join. When you're ready, on some next breath, just release all technique and just breathe and just abide in whatever shifts or movement might have happened. and just letting it speak wordlessly in silence. So the words of Pir-o-Murshid Inayat Khan. Meditation is the task of escaping from the control of the lower mind and living in the heart. It is only when consciousness is in the heart that the soul can be free. By heart is meant not only physical heart, but all that is physical, that is connected with the heart. And at the same time, it includes all the higher emotions, purer thoughts, and deep intuitions. All these belong to the heart. Heart differs from the mind and body in that body cannot heal itself and mind cannot heal itself. Mind can heal body, but this healing will not be permanent unless the mind is also purified. Heart not only heals mind and body, heart heals itself. Through the bloodstream, heart heals the body, and to a certain extent helps the mind, but through breath, will, and the inner light, heart can completely purge the mind of all its pain. All birth, growth, and decay, as the Blessed Buddha taught, are accompanied by pain. In disease and injury, this pain is more acute, but the average person is continually in pain. You probably have friends who are like that. As pain at ordinary times is less than during suffering, it is not noticed. Souls released from the body or enjoying the ecstasy of spiritual release while in the body discover the great distance between what one has set up and what God has ordained. Pain arises from thought. If there were no thought, there would be no pain. I'm going to come back to that. I have some commentary. This is observed to some extent when the nerves are removed. Even if thought were a chemical activity, as some materialists claim, it would only mean that the pain took on a chemical form. It is not so difficult to understand that outer change requires adjustment and so brings some suffering. And the same is true with inner change. It is often accompanied with suffering. When mental activity is inspired from within, and though it is still associated with the senses without being dependent upon them, then the intellectual functions may continue without this pain and suffering. This is the true nirvana, where faculties are continued unimpaired without being joined to the nafs, the ego. Then the light of the soul pouring from the heart illuminates the mind. This is the Buddhic or intuitional condition. One of the main purposes of meditation is the control of thought so that the mind will be illuminated by this life and light from within. Spiritual practices which purify the breath make it possible for the breath also to be used as a vehicle of the soul. Breath is the greatest help, yet can be the greatest hindrance. In meditation, especially according to the Sufi methods, no direct attention is paid to the breath, yet the more it is purified, the easier it is for the heart to illuminate the mind. One physical aspect of this is that the whole being is in rhythm and meditation. The body is at rest. The flow of the breath and blood is rhythmical. The mind vibrations become quiet, and gradually, through long practice, all the faculties of the mind, such as thought, reason, memory, I-ness, become dormant. Sitting at ease or in posture, holding a divine thought, the heart gradually controls the mind, and the inner light becomes visible, so to speak, before the naked eye. Another aspect is the activity of the blood itself. The bloodstream touches every part of the body and brain, so heart touches every aspect of life. It is this life in the heart which is the destiny of the soul to experience either upon earth or in Malakut, and one need not wait for it until one returns to the sphere of the heart itself. By meditation, one not only brings heaven to earth, but reaches the heaven of heavens while here. So pain arises from thought. If there were no thought, there would be no pain. There will still be experience, and it can be intense. And he actually says that further down. One of the main purposes of meditation is the control of thought, so that the mind will be illuminated by this life and light from within. Spiritual practices which purify the breath make it possible for the breath also to be used as a vehicle of the soul. Breath is the greatest help, yet can be the greatest hindrance. In meditation, especially according to the Sufi methods, no direct attention is paid to the breath, yet the more it is purified, the easier it is for the heart to illuminate the soul. So that requires some amplification. There is the explicit practice, which in this lineage is called fiqh, or this class of practices, where we do link a sacred word or a sacred phrase to the inhale, retention of breath at either end, and the exhale. And that's really the extent to which the physical breath is engaged in meditation. You know, whether you work with these mantric phrases, meditation, or simply a means to get into a state of meditation, depends on, you know, how you decide to language it. So the practices that purify the breath are the purification breaths and koso, and there's one called shaho, which I introduced at the breath teach. But even more so than that, what purifies the breath is the attention on centering in the heart and just noticing what kinds of thoughts and emotions we are granting being to. And that internal zikr that I've been teaching is really, really helpful in basically pushing all of the nonsense to the periphery where it finally falls off the edge. And tunes us by degrees to something that is really sublime. And then that affects our breath in the sense of how it affects our subtle energies and our aura and just the kind of atmosphere that we bring to whatever it is that we're doing. And it's also a gift to the people around us because they pick up on it. I was once on a retreat in a little grove of cedars, and I'm working on this internal zikr, and I got into a very spacious place where my self-representation, where my ego was very, very subdued. And I basically just sat down to watch the show. And I opened my eyes, and there's this squirrel. He's sitting right here. Looks like a human. Doesn't vibe like a human. And, and so I just thought, little brother squirrel. And it turned and ran up the nearest tree, turned around as they do, and just started chewing me out. So, light practices. This particular lineage, it's like we, and Sufism in general, incorporates paths of mastery and paths of devotion and paths of service. And paths of purification, and all of those things come into play at one time or another, and in fact are engaged at various times intentionally as we progress. But this particular initiatic line, especially as it comes through Pir-o-Murshid Inayat Khan, is a path of illumination. And just what illumination is again the inquiry of years and years. And it's more than enlightenment. It's a particular kind of embodying of light to the point where pretty much all there is inwardly is light. Because our very awareness is activated in us by the light of consciousness. And the more we cultivate that light as light, the more light-filled we become in a real way, not a dissociated way. So let's go back to the practice of Yan just that. And I sometimes like to start this with this really says the apparent is the bridge to the real. So one of the things that distinguishes this path from a lot of others is using things of everyday life as a springboard to something more fundamental. Days ago, somebody asked on Quora, I feel the presence of God. What does this mean? My reply was, doesn't mean. Every sentient being feels the presence of God. It's just that most of them think that that presence is themselves. Practices of light are particularly effective in making that sheath, shall we say, in which we're encapsulated in our personal awareness, making that more permeable, both to see through it, but also for us to be more aware of how the larger field is not only acting upon us, but in a sense creating us. Let your lips buzz a little bit on the little sound. Bring to mind, bring into this present moment from your memory an experience of physical light that was particularly magical or uplifting or expansive. Perhaps it engendered a certain quality of gratitude. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be morning sun just peeping up over the horizon. It can be sunlight shining through tree leaves. It can be just the appearance of the sun after days of rain. Maybe it was sunlight reflecting off of moving water, or reflecting off of snow or dewdrops on the grass, or water in your garden and there's a little raindrop. Whatever it was. With your creative imagination, bringing that experience into this present moment, and to whatever extent you can, sinking into the re-experience of that moment of upliftment or magic. And regarding this light as a kind of subtle substance, inhaling it into your body, indrawing it through your heart, perhaps even indrawing it to your heart spherically from all directions, drawing it to and through the center of your forehead and the top of your head. And if you wish, you can think the word nur on the inhale and just take a few breaths to infuse your whole body with this light. Just letting it seep into and shine into every corner of your body, your mind, your emotions. So we'll return to invoking the presence of divine light through the name Nur, intoning it out loud, and continuing with this practice of inhaling and exhaling light. Inhale and out. Exhale and out. Exhaling, radiating light in all directions, thinking rule. Result. Release the word and just breathe. You begin breathing, inhaling light into that place in you where the thoughts come up. Most of us will experience that as somewhere in our heads. That's actually a very Western frame. Gradually just comes yet combining light. When the flow is open for questions, comments,
wanted to ask and make sure I heard correctly about light becoming visible to the naked eye.
He said that. And certainly seems like concrete experience for the why it was enormous. And the shade went up. Most solar being I think I've ever encountered. Seems pretty amazing. It's almost this enormous floodlight in him that was diffusing out through interstices between these molecules.
When I first started, when I was we were doing the first round of listening, um, there was the part about the heart having either will and or intention and light to eliminate the mind.
Yeah,
So
I find that.
just feeling that practice as we breathe and where we believe our thoughts come from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can kind of see the steps along the way to get there.
Mm-hmm. Too many light practices. Unless you're driving or moving sharp objects. And each of us will find the different devices that work for us according to how we're wired up. I happen to be more tactile, kinesthetic, um, sensate in that particular way. Some people do well with visualizations or coupling that with, as I did in this little creative visualization thing, hitching it to a point in our experience that had some meaning. by music. So just inhale and exhale endure as you're letting this music carry you.